We are back. As a matter of fact, Robert Peters, as you guys know me, I mean, this is maybe our 11th installment. We're really going all across the country looking for what are those future focused strategies for all students? What do future focused schools look like for all students? As you guys know, I mean, we've been in Ohio talking about artificial intelligence, right? We were in Cincinnati. Okay. Then we went out to California, folks. We've been in Oregon. We've been in Knoxville. We've been back to Ohio. We've been talking to educators across the country, from superintendents all the way down to teachers, from the boardroom all the way down to the classroom, about what do those future focused skills, those strategies, what do they look like? And today, in our installment, we're really going to be talking about what do future focused schools and initiatives look like for special education students, right? Earlier, we were talking about gifted students, and we talked about this kind of this misconception of if a child is gifted in one thing, we think that that child is gifted in everything, right? There's also this misconception of special education children and future focused schools for those special education children. Folks, I've got an expert in the field. Her name is Miss Neely McKay. She is the special education director in Hermiston School District. It's in Oregon. They're doing some amazing work there. A little bit about Miss McKay. She didn't think I knew. In 2007, she was Educator of the Year in Hermiston School. You didn't think I knew that, did you?
I did not.
Middle school, a principal. As a matter of fact, she was a distinguished award winner with FFA. You didn't think I knew that either, did you, Miss? Okay. You didn't think
no secrets.
yeah, right? She's been doing a lot of work in the field over almost 15 years in student support services. So we've got someone here that is an expert in the field. They're doing some amazing work in Hermiston, an actual AESA lighthouse district. First of all, before I even ask you a question, Neely, why don't you introduce yourself to the family? Tell us a little more about your work, and then I might as well ask you the question. And then tell us, I mean, when you're thinking about special education students, what does a future focused school, what characteristics of a future focused school do you think, I mean, when you think about those special education children, what does it look like for SPED children?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Neely McKay. I'm the Director of Special Programs for the Hermiston School District. And this is my 4th year in that position.
Mhm.
Before that, I came from curriculum and instruction for a different district. And I think that really led to quality growth work, actually, for our district, because if you understand the whole of instruction, then it's easier to really dive down into specialized instruction and what those student needs might be. We've got an awesome team here. I wish you could have all of us and all the brain trust, because it's not me doing the work. It's obviously the people that we have on our staff, and we're lucky to have an incredible team. That's for sure.
Definitely.
I'm so glad that you talked about in your introduction about the gifted students, and maybe they're not gifted in every area. I think that led me to the point that I really wanted to make today, is that when we're thinking about future focused schools for the future of our students, what we're trying to really work on is quit calling them SPED students, because that is such a label to put on a kid that could describe a student who has our articulation issues and just needs to learn how to say lucky rabbit legs instead of lucky wabbit legs, right? As simple as that.
Exactly.
All the way to extremely impacted students who have medical care needs, who have really intensive learning needs that are about foundational and adaptive skills, and then everywhere in between. So one thing we really are trying to work on is quit saying SPED kids, because they're individual students who have individual strengths. We are a strength-based system. So how do we move them individually forward, right? How do we get them, take exactly where they're at as a human and move their skills forward, and not just say SPED students?
Exactly.
You know, often I'll talk to a teacher and they'll say, oh my gosh, I have 5 SPED students in my class. And I said, oh, How exciting for them.
Exactly.
What are their needs? And then we get, well, 3 are speech only. And like, okay, so when you're talking about SPED students, you just clump them all together, but really they're very individual students who have very individual needs.
Exactly.
So we really are trying to work on that. We're a work in progress like every other school district,
Sure.
right? But that's one of our main focuses in our department, is to help the students to have a better future. For us to be future focused, then we have to individualize all of our programming for the students and our understanding of each student's particular needs.
You know,
And that's where future focus starts with for us in SPED.
it is so cool because just, earlier today, we were in Grand Prairie and we were talking to Mrs. Moore. She's the executive director over at Advanced Academic Services there. And she said the same thing. She says, as far as gifted children, we have to individualize their experiences. You can't say future focused schools for all gifted children because every child is different. They have different needs and they're gifted in different places, right? And you said the same thing. And I know my son, when he started speech therapy, his R's was his W's, right? You know that, right? He started speech therapy, his R's are his W's, but his R's are not his W's anymore. Yeah. So he doesn't need that type of assistance anymore. So as we're thinking about our students, the first thing, thank you, we can't group them in this gifted SPED. We've got to individualize and say, what do they need? And then give them what they need when they need it, as long as they need it, and not think, oh, you're going to need this for the next 12 years. No, he just needed those services just for a little bit. Now, he might need additional services, but I love the first thing you've got to do is go from this command and control, trying to put kids in a box, and really begin to look at those individualized pieces within students, right? Talk to us. Neely, talk to us about some amazing things that you guys are doing, because I know that a couple things. I know about Hermiston. One thing, you guys have an amazing team. I mean, if there is a person that I would want to work with every day, a group that I would want to work with every day, it's the Hermiston team. I mean, you guys got Dr. Mooney. You guys got an amazing team. You also are doing some amazing work there, and you've done some amazing work in a relatively short period of time compared to other districts across the country. Tell us some things that you're definitely proud of some pieces that those strategies, those future focused strategies that you're doing to individualize for the needs of children.
Absolutely. Two things come to mind right away of all the many things we're doing. One is we're really working on purposeful inclusion. We've had a huge shift in our country of like full inclusion is the only way. And students who are highly impacted need to be with general education peers as much as possible. And I wholeheartedly believe that's true. However, what happened is we swung too far and we said, oh, put them in the classroom and then we're going to put them in the back with an assistant doing totally different work, not interacting with anybody at all. And then if they act up, we're going to pull them away. As opposed to if you're doing purposeful inclusion, which is what we're working towards, why are they there? What experience are they trying to get out of that inclusion? And what do we need to pull them out for so that they can learn and grow in their own skills? For instance, you might have a student who is really highly impacted in their disability with behavior.
Right.
And so we're going to start as a team to say, okay, what gen ed experiences would they be most successful at? And what would be the purpose of our gen ed exposure? Maybe it's to get academics, but maybe it's just to go experience what students who are behaving look like, right? And the time that they're in there is going to be in a more structured environment because they need more structure versus a student who maybe is significantly highly impacted with an intellectual disability. And what they really need is just experiences. They just need to buddy up with somebody. They're not there for academics. We're not there trying to teach them specific behavior skills necessarily. We're just trying to get them into the science classes and the PE so they can really interact with students. But it would be wildly inappropriate and a kind of a waste of their time a little bit to put them into the structured math class at levels that are 4 levels, 5 levels above where they're at, as opposed to how about we give them a break from gen ed that time and go work in their skills because we're losing them growing.
Mhm.
Right. So when we include all the time and we're just in there, students aren't growing as fast as they could. So how do
Mhm.
we get purposeful inclusion, have the experiences that they need, um, and individualized to the student? One student
Right.
might need structured settings, one might thrive better in unstructured settings. So what does that student need, and what's the goal? And really talking to the teachers, the classroom teachers, about this student is in here during this time for this purpose. They're part of
Mhm.
your classroom. They're not out to the side of your classroom.
Right.
They're a part of your classroom during this time, and here's what we're working on. And it may be academics. It may be don't care about the academics right this moment. We'll care
Mhm.
about the academics someplace else on the day. I just want you to help them learn how to be a student.
Right. Right.
So we're really working on purposeful inclusion, because I think in our country we've swung too far and just said throw them in. That's the best for them.
Right.
But why? And what
You know,
can we grow on their skills during that time?
right. And I love that because, it's almost like, it builds, right? Because the first thing we talked about is, okay, we want to individualize, right? But at the same time, then as we individualize, we need to make sure that we have a purposeful plan for our students to ensure that they're successful. Like you said, put inclusion. We want to put this student here, but you know that's not the best place at the best time for that student,
Mhm.
right? We might need to pull that student, give that student what they need to accelerate their learning in one part, then
Mhm.
put them in another class to ensure that they're successful. Then pull them out a little later on for those students to accelerate their learning, right? So it's almost like this. One size cannot fit all children. And that is what we're seeing all across the country, Neely. We're
Mhm.
seeing that the more people that we talk to, it is how do you build a system for that, right?
Mhm.
How do you really build a system for that? But we've been talking for a while. I want to go ahead and put in a plug for our conference, right?
Yeah.
These are some amazing strategies, you guys. You're part of the family. You've got to come visit with a Neely, visit with other educators across the country, whether they're talking about gifted, talking about systems for gifted, African American, EL, children that have needs, all children, future focus strategies for all children. They're in the link. We're going to be in DC. You've got to come be a part of this work. Neely, I want to thank you.
Yeah,
First of all,
absolutely.
Mrs. McKay, I want to
Yeah.
thank you. I've been knowing her as Neely for the last 10 years, right? You
I
know,
prefer
and
Haley. Yeah.
that's it. Everyone does, right? So, hey, thank you so much for just really putting it in perspective in two ways. First of all, we've got to stop calling special education children, right? We've
Yes.
got to make sure that we understand that we all have needs, right? I am positive that my mother says, okay, son, you've got ADHD before ADHD was ADHD, right? So I needed someone to really sit me down and say, these are needs that Robert has. Every child has specific needs. And what we have to do is we owe those children to individualize and build systems around that. So, Mrs. McKay, thank you so much. Folks, if you are ever in Oregon, and you drive across the Columbia River, right? When you're leaving Washington going into Oregon, the first exit will lead you to an amazing school district, Hermiston School District, home of the Bulldogs, man.
Home of the Bulldogs.
Call up, that's it. You go talk to Dr. Trisha Mooney, talk to her team. She's got an amazing team. They're doing some amazing work there. And Neely, thank you so much for just giving us that information around future focus schools for all students. Thanks, Neely. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.